Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sustainably You, your home for sustainability as an individual, business, and society. My name is Simi, and we have Vibha with us as usual.
Hello, hi everyone. So happy to be here. And today we have a guest, Nadine Zidani, who is a sustainability consultant here in the UAE. And she works with many businesses over here, small, medium, and large, help them transform their companies into more sustainable. So Nadine, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here with both of you.
I think it's a great job to be in the current market situation where every company has a focus on sustainability. It's part of their business model. It's been pushed by the government, and people want to do the right thing. So, who are the people and industries who you currently work with, and what is your role as a sustainability consultant?
So, as a sustainability consultant, my job is mainly to support organizations in this transformation. And I really like the word transformation because, as you said, it's transforming the business and the way we are doing business. So I do many things actually to support them in this transition into a more sustainable business model. The first one is consulting. So basically advising, supporting them in building a sustainability strategy, because that's the very start actually of any sustainability journey. It's thinking about what kind of business we are in, what kind of impact we are making, and having very clear objectives. And it has to be, at very strategic level and very much linked to the business strategy. That's one of the aspects. I help them with the reporting, how to measure the impact, how to communicate the impact. That's really key. That's for the consulting part. And then there is another aspect to my work that's growing actually, that I was not expecting. Honestly, it's training, awareness. The very first discussion I have with any business, I realized that we don't have a common language and understanding about sustainability. We throw words like CSR, corporate social responsibility, ESG, and all SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and people are a little bit lost, within this sustainability, knowledge ecosystem. So one of the very first steps is for me to explain, educate, and as well come, with a set of training workshops that they could use, in the organization, and that's a very, very important element
to get everybody in the organization aligned.
Absolutely.
For the common
because
goal.
It's not a topic for just a couple of people within the organization.
Exactly.
When we talk about a transformation, everybody has to be in it, from the staff to the top management. But if we are not all on the same page and we are not, we don't know what we are talking about, basically, it's not going to happen. So I do a lot of workshops, for instance, on climate change, on how to introduce the SDGs, in the organization, or even having online training on the fundamentals of corporate sustainability, learning the basics, to more advanced training for the people really working into sustainability.
So You go.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, generally in the companies, do you see it's more like a top-down approach?
Yeah.
When you do these workshops and trainings, what kind of response do you get from like the general extended departments and people who work in different...
Yeah, just to add to that question, where do you start? So do you start top down or bottom up? Or what really works?
So for now, what I'm seeing is more a top-down approach. So management. So when I say top-down, I mean CEOs, executive teams. So it's when they start, and actually I think it's a good start, honestly. So when the executive team really think about it as a strategic, agenda for the organization, that's a very good start. So, and then we're going to start reaching out and finding expertise and support, to make it really happen. But it's not enough. It has to be top down and bottom up. And that's the thing with, workshops and training. It's how do we make it, bottom-up approach? How can we listen, to the employees? Because we have we have so many talents within the organization working in so many different departments, and they have all anyway, to be involved in this transformation. So when you do this kind of workshops and training, and anytime at the end, of any workshop, there is, this action. How do we make it happen? What do we do now? And we start brainstorming and, drafting, new initiatives. And this is how you start, this movement internally. So it's it has to come, from, the bottom and top down approach. It's otherwise it's going to stay, at a very, strategic level. So people won't feel, involved, and we're just going to scratch the surface. Yes.
Yeah. Now, in the Middle East, or in general, people over the years, or companies over decades, has a certain way of working, and it's not sustainable in general across industries. It's very linear. You may produce whatever, if it's product or services, it's made and given, and that's the end. So the recent trend that I've been seeing is, it's a good trend. It should also move on forward to something else, is people taking it as a CSR. Oh, I need to do something good, so let's take sustainability, but it should not be. How do you see that? Do you see that changing? Do you see that's why they hire you, or is it because they want to bring it as a change in their whole business model?
I think what we've seen the last, decades, it started, as you said, as more philanthropy.
Yeah.
So we want to do good. So to do good, I go, to non-profit organization and I start giving money or a bit of my time. And I feel like that's enough. But now we are moving to another stage of, corporate social responsibility, to a more like, how can I build a responsible company? So thinking about the way I'm doing the business and the impact actually of all my decisions. And this is, the I would say the stage where we are actually now. And then the next stage, it's really building a sustainable business model. So it's not anymore thinking about it as strategic initiatives, here and there to use business, as a force for good, but more about how can I incorporate it in my business model. So it's not anymore a topic for a couple of people. It's really part of my DNA. It's part of my values. It's part of my mission, and it's the way I'm really doing the business. So it's different stages, and I think depending on the industry, on the pressure as well from regulations, governments, companies are at different levels. So it's happening a little bit slowly, but we see that companies are now more aware, more tuned to what's happening, in the ecosystem around them, in the industry, in the world. And there is a call, and they contact me when they think about it as a strategic topic, which is really good.
Yeah.
So it's not just come and help us, build a couple of initiatives or have a workshop or just do something for the sake of doing something. It's more now, how can I, as part of my business model, incorporate sustainability and think about it as a strategic topic, which is amazing. And usually they reach out to me because they don't know how to start, where to start, what to do.
So does it start from like a single department? Do companies now have sustainability departments or a person who looks after this and manages the whole thing? Or is it spread across every different department that the company has?
You have different level of maturities now. The very mature organization, they have what we call a CSO, a Chief Sustainability Officer, or also called an Impact Officer. So that's very mature organization, and in the best practices, the CSO should report to the CEO and should be part of the executive team. And usually they have a team and at least a couple of people working full-time on sustainability. But then for the companies just starting, the trend I'm seeing, and it's a little bit surprising, honestly, for me, it's marketing departments.
Right.
We give the topic to marketing.
That's a sad place to start, though. So they just want to show that I'm doing so much. I'm so sustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a bit of that, and I think there is as well, like, we don't know. So we just, naturally, it's about as well communication and, showing what we're doing. So just give it. And I had discussion with people, head of marketing, telling me, like, I don't know, why am I supposed to work on it? Why it's me? So it's just, because they need to start somewhere, and they just don't know where.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do have a role in it.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to communicating to the customers that we are doing it. It's important for a company who is investing in sustainability, for people to know that they are doing it. But that's much later stage, maybe.
They all have to be involved. It's an HR topic, it's an IT topic, it's procurement, it's marketing, it's all the organization. So, but it's a question of time, and I think whenever they start, this journey, at some point they will realize that we need someone, or at least temporarily having someone, full time working on it, supporting us, and then start building a team. But the idea as well is not to have like a full, team of, I don't know, like 100 people, especially for a big organization working in sustainability, because again, we come back to the silo, ways of working and traditional ways of working of corporates. And it becomes like, me as part of HR, it's not my topic, it's a sustainability team topic, I'm not concerned. So they have to be very careful, in the way, in terms of governance, how we structure actually the governance around the topic. So
when it comes to a business model, how do you bring in sustainability? Do you kind of incorporate into their business model, or kind of it's sitting on top? So there are certain checklists they need to do, and to ensure that their company is sustainable. Is that where you start, or do you try to incorporate completely into what they're doing currently? I mean, because that would be a very long shot, because it takes time before all departments come on board and everybody is sold out for sustainability. So what's the approach in general as a consultant?
I like what you said about checklists.
I feel it is, because
so many people, are coming to me and saying, hey, is there a checklist, that's going to help my business to become sustainable? And the answer is no. Is no, because for one reason. First, there is no standard framework for sustainability right now. We have couple, tackling, more the climate aspect, environment, more on the social, aspects, but we have no one single, standard framework commonly used, worldwide. It's coming. There is a body called the ISSB, International Standard Sustainability Board, that is currently working actually at a very international level on, gathering all the best practices that we are having right now, and build this single framework that companies can use. And then we can start, benchmarking, comparing, from one industry to another, the practices of organizations. But we are not yet there.
Yeah.
So for now, usually the approach is we need to think about the stakeholders. And we've been, for many years, an organization has been solely focusing on maximizing shareholder value. That was the main stakeholder we were focusing on. Now we are moving to what we call the stakeholder capitalism, meaning that an organization needs to understand that they are here to serve a bunch of different stakeholders, directly connected or indirectly connected to your business. So it means that the first thing to do is to identify your stakeholders. Who are they? Your employees, for instance, are one of your stakeholders. The government is one of your stakeholders. Activists, organizations are one of your stakeholders. So it starts, by building this big picture of who are we serving as a business, and then what do matter to them, what their concerns, and you start listing, the big topic such as climate change. You can use the Sustainable Development Goals and many, standards, that exist, worldwide. And this is how, and then you start matching that with your own business, your own strategic, business. And this is how you start mapping things together and having this perspective of your stakeholders and what matters to your business. And then realize that, okay, these are perhaps the 5, key objectives, key topics that I need to tackle, as part of my business model. And that's a very good start already. And based on that, you define, again, like any strategy, you define objectives, you define KPIs, targets. It has to be measurable. You have to measure, what you're doing. And then you start reporting and reviewing the strategy, and it has to be part of the global, dashboard of the organization. Like if you have it on a weekly or monthly meeting, as part of your executive team to review the revenues, the profits, and all of that, all the financials, you add to it the sustainability objectives.
Now, how easy is that to sell? Because they probably bring you in and they expect, okay, in a month it's done. How easy is it to sell to the governance or the management team to bring them on board with the full picture?
I think it depends who you're talking to. If you talk to a CEO, he will get it very
done faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because again, strategic topics, strategic discussions, they are most of them already aware, of what's happening around them and seeing the impact already on their business. So it's much faster. But if the topic is not positioned at the right level in the organization, it got a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it depends on how they're prioritizing this whole.
Absolutely.
If they're thinking of this as a transformation, if it's just like, a few things I have to change here and there, or a lot of companies might even do it because their competitors are doing it.
Absolutely.
And they're like, oh, they're doing it, that means I need to do it too. I mean, I work in marketing, so that happens very often. There's a campaign running and they're like, I want to know what they're doing right now. And they'll try and come up with similar strategies, things like that. So is that something also that you're seeing, something that because the industry is going in that direction, they're kind of forced to do it? And that's where it's not like a wholehearted approach. It's more like, just tell me what to do and then I can talk about it.
100%. I can give you a concrete example. A company contacted me, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, telling me, do you do sustainability reporting? To which I said yes. And they told me, like, our clients, so as a supplier, our clients are asking us now, can you share with me your sustainability reports? So they are in a way obliged, forced, as you said, to do something about it. But what they wanted actually was just a report. It's not, the full approach that I just explained to you. Who are your stakeholders? Let's define a strategy. Let's do things, in a very structured way. We just want a report. So that's, for me, the bad way to do it.
Yeah. How would you create a report in that
without, if they didn't have any initiatives in place?
I don't do it. I mean, honestly, I'll be very honest. For me, it's a strategic topic. So me, I do strategy. I don't do reporting for the sake of reporting. And I don't produce paper. Right. You can do it. I mean, you can do it.
But
you can do amazing, nice, reports.
And going back to this whole regulatory body that you talked about, within the finance industry, we have SEC in the US and we have similar boards across the world now. And it's all streamlined, organized, benchmarks. I mean, you can still cook the books if you wanted to, even within finance. And a similar thing will happen in this as well. You can talk about ESG, you can have your reports in place, but how much of it is really happening? That's where the transparency kind of comes in as well. And maybe once we do have this regulatory body, it will be easier to keep track of things.
Absolutely. And at that time, we will have what we call an integrated report. So you have your financial and non-financial data in the same report. So same importance, which is really amazing. And this is what, we are heading to. And it's just a matter of time. And I always say to organizations, don't wait. Don't wait for, regulations. Don't wait to be forced to do things. It's really now. It has to happen really now. So you get ready whenever, the regulations and the standards, come into force.
But also, business-wise, also it makes more sense to be ready now
Yes.
than when it's later. When everybody is doing it, then you are also in a run to do it. Now, if you already add it to your value and your mission, when everybody else is doing, you are focused on business and not integrating sustainability. You're already sustainable business and maybe moving one step ahead. Yeah. No, talking about that, about creating the report, I did see a couple of reports recently on a couple of websites, which I'm not going to reveal. And it was alarming. It was not a report. So it was just talking about what is sustainability. But before you click on it, it says climate report for the company. But there was nothing. There was no report inside it. And that's a shame. It's just so scandalous.
This is what we call greenwashing.
Yeah.
So, very fancy, well-designed, report, but not really with the content. And if you want to see, because I spend a lot of my time reading reports as well, whenever you see the length of the report doesn't really matter, but when you see like materiality matrix, strategic objectives, link, to standards, worldwide, standards and frameworks, and really sharing, into giving a lot of details about what they are doing, I think it's a good sign. It's a good sign that, they are taking the matter very seriously and doing something about it. And I think one of the aspects as well in the report is stating what you're not doing well. Because everybody wants to say, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing that. But nobody is perfect.
Yeah.
And we are all doing mistakes, and you can't be everywhere. You
And
have
it
to
takes
choose
time.
your battles, and it takes a lot of time. It's a journey. It's a very, very long journey.
Yeah.
So whenever a company say, well, we are doing all of this, but at the same time we realize that, for instance, the supply chain, we are not good. We still, have to review all our suppliers. We are not in control of the supply chain. That's a very good signal.
That's a good start.
Absolutely.
You know where to go then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it builds, trust and, loyalty, with your stakeholders. And it's a complete different dimension and discussion.
Yeah. I mean, in the current scenario, in general with businesses, especially big businesses, they have their own loyal customers. They probably are there already without having to be sustainable or non-sustainable. Let's suppose a clothing brand like Adidas or, Now, once you start building in sustainability and you're communicating it to the customer, I think you are not only keeping the customers that's there, they will trust you more, but you're also bringing in new customers because it doesn't matter how much, but are you doing or not is the question. That first step is the most important step to the next step. Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to industries, do you see certain industries doing better than certain other industries in the Middle East?
Very difficult to say, honestly, because you can have take the example of solar panels. You can be, a company producing solar panels, which is amazing, much needed, but still, the way you do your business, the way you deal with your stakeholders can be really bad. So we have to be very careful, when it comes to industries and finding role models. A business can be naturally, we can naturally think that, okay, it's a very, sustainable business, but we don't know what's behind it.
No.
And it comes back, to reporting and disclosing and telling more, about what you do. The moment that we're going to have all organizations forced to disclose their impact, forced to do reporting, and we can really start comparing, across industries, this is where we can really say, oh, they are doing better than another.
No, that's a great thing that you just reminded me about a conversation I was having with one of my son's mother who works with solar panels. They've been in the industry for last 10 years, 15 years in the region, and she's in the management. And currently the problem for them is the supply chain. So they have to disclose sustainability reports. They cannot manage the supply chain. So, when we think of that should be a very sustainable company because they make solar panels. And you just you have not mapped it out, where the things are coming from, how it's produced, where it's going. Those things they are not clear of. So,
but it can also be a matter of, where the system in which you're existing and where you're functioning.
Absolutely.
Because you also as a business don't exist in a silo. You have to deal with so many government entities, suppliers, and if none of them are helping or none of them are focused on this goal, you can't work together. It becomes more difficult for you to reach your goals, right?
Or on focus on it. I mean, it's all focus as long as you're creating a solar panel.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So to have that responsibility to transparency or traceability of how things are performed, if there is if you are accountable for it, only then you will start mapping it.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
I think you said a key word here, responsibility.
Right.
It's your responsibility as a business, the supply chain, whether it is a sub-supplier or I don't know, like, you're not having, direct contact with it. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to first have a very clear view of the whole of your supply chain, and then to take decisions. Do I still want to work with this supplier? Am I, there is a risk actually linked to it. So it's a reputational risk, it's a financial risk. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's your responsibility.
Right, but for those companies who are more serious about making these changes in these stages, for them the work will be slightly harder, because then they have to take the initiative, maybe educate their suppliers, in case no other supplier exists, for instance, and that happens in many industries, and spread that kind of awareness that we are doing this. We also need everybody we work with to follow similar guidelines. So
that's the best approach to do it. It's think about it as a partnership.
Right.
They're your partners. It's not only suppliers. You work together. And how can we, get better together? And that's what the best companies are doing. It's exactly that. Building a partnership, helping each other, going, to the factories, doing reviews and helping actually the people, to change, the procedures, to think about the social impact, to help them, change, if they have to do anything, within the factory to make, life better for the employees. It's a partnership. And I think this idea of partnership in sustainability is very, very important. We are part of an ecosystem. We are not anymore, we don't see the organization as an isolated, entity from, what's happening around it. So it's you're partnering with your competition first, because we have to find solutions to huge problems like climate change. So the more you discuss, the more you partner with them, the more you're going to come up with innovative, solutions, and your suppliers and the whole ecosystem. So I think this idea of partnership is a little bit underestimated, and again, it's a mindset shift.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's this whole idea that you're competing with each other.
Absolutely.
Is just been there forever. Like, she's making this and I'm making this, and we are supposed to be, but we don't have to be.
Yes.
I'm an individual, so is she, and so are you, and we will create what we create to our sensibilities, and people will see the difference. But maybe it is. I'm talking from a point of view as creating a product. Maybe it is different when it comes to services. I'm not sure. But I do believe that partnership is the only way forward. Having said that, especially in the Middle East, it's very, very difficult. If you're planning sourcing and creating a supply chain locally, it is close to impossible to get that transparency, to get that traceability. Especially, I'm only talking with regards to fashion, but it
because
is
you
difficult.
work in it and you have a company yourself, so
it's very
difficult.
Right. They will tell you this and that, but it's difficult to get something in written, get something in paper, to go back. Okay, this is. They don't want to reveal it from the very scare of what we just said about having this competitive mindset, which is from a wrong point of view. Maybe she will get it, or that other person will get it, get the information of where stuff is coming from. Yeah.
That's what you need more and more certification and mandatory disclosure. That's going to help the suppliers and the clients. So it's the way forward.
Yeah.
So what model are you seeing companies following here? Because you mentioned a couple of different ones, and maybe we can define them as well to make it clear to our listeners, like what is ESG, what is SDG, things like that. So what are people following here?
You mean in terms of standards and
Yes.
Many things.
Okay.
It's not, as I said, it's not one single one. I can give you a couple of examples. I'm very passionate about B Corporation, or also called B Corp. It's a very interesting, actually, standard for environmental and social performance, and it's really good, if you want to benchmark yourself and compare, with other industries and other companies. That's it's a very unique, because it's the only one that integrates environmental and social impacts. And it's really certified. It's a framework. You can just use it for the sake of benchmarking yourself, or you can go into getting the certification, which is very hard actually to get.
What do you mean, as a company get a certification?
Yes.
Okay.
You can become a B Corp as a company. For instance, for me, my own company, I'm in the process of applying for the B Corp certification.
Okay. Yeah, the B Corp certification, we talked about it in one of our previous episodes in season 1.
Yeah.
So we defined ESG, and we also
Yes.
talked about B Corp companies that
But I thought it was a kind of, when you, not as a company you get certified, but as a person, or, where you can go out
it's only for companies.
Okay.
It's really as a company, and it's a way to disclose, again, your impact. It's very interesting. It started more like small businesses, entrepreneurs, and now it's we see more and more big corporations actually applying for the B Corp certification. More recently, we had Nespresso. Nespresso is becoming a B Corp. So it's a trend, and it's really good in the region. Unfortunately, it's not well known. We only have, I think, in the whole Middle East, one company which is a B Corp.
Really?
Yes. So
Okay.
and it can really help actually the business. It can really help entrepreneurs, any type of business, any size. So I think we need to start thinking about using this kind of standards to start disclosing our impact.
So is it industry specific or
No, not at all.
Okay. And how is it different from ESG or SDG? Are those kind of checklists that you use? Because that's a common understanding that people have, that ESG is kind of certain things that you do and you check it off, and okay, now we are following it.
Yeah.
It's a good question. We are mixing a little bit, from my perspective, we are mixing a little bit the words and the concepts. ESG is coming from the financial world. So ESG is a set of criteria to measure how sustainable a business is. And so ESG stands for environment, social governance. So you have a set of criteria. If I take the example of governance, one of them, for instance, is how diverse is your board? How many women do you have as part of your board? That can be one of the criteria. So it's really coming from the financial, aspects, and how, as an investor, I can assess, the environmental and social performance of an organization.
So it's a reporting standard.
We can do reporting. You have different standards, behind it. You have as well now ESG ratings. So and it's available, online. You can check, all organizations, what kind of rating they have. And as an organization, I can apply as well, because it can help, whenever I'm a supplier, or my clients ask me questions about my performance, I can provide them with this kind of rating. So it is helpful. It's very interesting, but it's not enough. So, and I think we are very confused. So for me, honestly, the word I like using is, when it comes to business, it's corporate sustainability. And I try to move away from ESG and CSR and whatever, because at the end of the day, as we said in the beginning, it's about a business model. It's about building a sustainable business model. It's about, a new mindset, new thinking, interacting with your stakeholders and all of that. And when you just, sum up to a CSR or ESG thing, I think we are completely losing the meaning.
The essence of it.
Yeah, the essence of it.
But
the SDGs, just to find. So the SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs have been adopted in 2015 as part of the Paris, COP, and it's a global framework for everyone.
Yeah.
So nations, nations, business, people. And it encompasses 17, different goals. Behind each goal, you have a set of targets, a set of indicators. It's a blueprint, for more prosperity, more healthy and regenerative, actually, world. So it's very broad. It's a little bit difficult to apply at business level, but it's still an input. We use it. We use it especially, when you want to trigger the discussion with your stakeholders and see, what matters to them. You use the SDGs. And it's very interesting as well to link, your strategy to the SDGs. Again, giving this broader picture of, it's not me as a business, and even for your employees and the people you interact with. I'm doing all of this, but this is, how I'm contributing actually to the SDGs.
Part of the SDG, yeah.
Exactly. So that's very interesting.
But doesn't, because I read this statistic which said that 90% of S&P 500 companies release ESG reports now along with their financial reports. Does it help standardize to some extent, enable you to compare where you stand versus other companies or your competitors or things like that?
You mean ESG?
Yes.
Just to add to that, is it a self-reporting tool, or is it something you provide, like a certain person like you who is certified B Corp, or somebody who goes and can create a report? What's exactly the tool that ESG provides? Is it self-reporting, or there's an audit happening? What happens? Because the SDG, ESG, all these stuff is just thrown out everywhere, and most people do not know how, what, where it's used. Yeah.
As I said in the beginning, it's you have many standards. So yes, it's based on standards. It's based on rating agency. You have now even rating agency that help you, to assess your impact and to showcase it, as part of ESG and all of that. So, but my message here is to not only stick to that, because it won't give you the full picture of what the organization is doing. And it gives this false impression that it's just, a set of criteria. We're just ticking the box. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have, 50, I come back to my example of the board. I have 50 women, as part of my board that tick the box, and I'm great, which is absolutely not enough. So I think we are giving a false picture that it comes like it's an easy topic, which is absolutely not.
Yes.
And we are moving away from this idea of transformation and mindset and new kind of leadership and stakeholder management and all of that. So, and for me, it's good. It's a good step forward because we start disclosing, which is amazing. I'm not saying, that
right.
It's not. It's really amazing, but it's not enough. Yeah. Until we don't have, this common, standard that, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're still, navigating, and everybody is using a different, set of standards and things. And even if it's audited, reviewed, and blah, 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 it's still, it's not enough.
So, what kind of investment is a company looking at when it comes to like a transformation journey that they might want to do, like in the short term, medium, and then maybe long term as well? Are we looking at an initial investment in terms of
The change.
financially, and then having obviously people in the company as well who look after this?
There is an initial investment. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen, let's be honest.
Right.
If you don't have a budget, if you're not ready to put, money on the table, time, resources, it's not going to happen. So there is an initial investment. It depends on the organization. So it's very difficult. I cannot give you a figure, or a percentage. It depends. And I think it depends as well on the journey. So when you really start, from scratch with an organization, it's easier because you build, like a plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So you can, forecast the investment and have more a structured approach. I think that's one of the things the organizations underestimate, because if you, again, if it's not part of your strategy, if you're not, as any strategic topic, not ready to put money on the table, it's not going to happen. So I think it's really up to the management to decide how important is the topic for them. And I think when we relate that to your question about the budget, it does reflect on the budget.
Right. But is there, because initially, yes, you will invest, but then there's always a vision that in the long term, it's going to save you, it's going to help you cut costs, because the whole process is about using less resources, or at least kind of keeping track of how much you're using and then kind of reducing it over time. So is there an expectation that there will be financial return out of this investment?
Well, yes. As any, strategic topic, yes, because as it links to your business, you might take decisions, for instance, to stop, a certain product or certain services, go for something completely different because you realize that your stakeholders, are more into a different, set of products. So it has an element to that, of that. But it's very difficult to quantify as from the beginning. And that's why companies are a little bit reluctant to invest.
Right.
So you need to have people who have a vision. You need to have a leadership that, is ready to think not, the next 2 months or a year, from now. It's the next 10 years. And start investing, knowing that it's going to happen. It's not going to return on investment. It's not going to happen now, but it's for the long term.
Right. And for that, you need an advocate that's within the company as well, because they know their business better than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And they are the ones who can convince the rest of the people. If it's just an external agency, it becomes very difficult to make that change.
Yeah. I think it's the combination of both. When there is the buy-in, plus, this external, agency, consultant, whatever, helping, supporting them, it's really helping because, for instance, myself, as a consultant, I can really come and pitch as well, within the organization. When people are ready to listen, that's the only thing I need. If people are not ready, it's just a waste of time and energy. But when people, and especially, the exec team is ready, and open, to learn and start this journey, it's because you can come as an outsider and say things that people internally are not ready to say. And let's be very honest, it's very political, still, in the lot of politics, within organizations. So you can really come and, come with ideas, challenge as well the management, and plus, the trust and the buy-in of the internal management. This is how you make things, really happen.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say the politics, especially when it comes to big companies.
Yeah.
It's so multi-layered and it's not that easy. But talking about champions of change within an organization, a lot of people would probably come to you because, like Vibha said, that it's because there's external pressure they want to be shown in a good light, or they want to be seen in a good light in the market. Then we are talking about no champions. It's just for the picture. How do you bring that change? How do you find that one person or people within the governance how do you choose that person to work with as a consultant to make sure that it's the change is for real? For what they started should not be the end goal. The end goal should be they transform from inside.
You will be surprised, but when people come to me, they really care.
Okay, that's great.
Yes, and that's the thing, within an organization. I think that's why we are seeing a real shift, in the business. People care. Take any employee in the organization and talk to him about climate change or the impact, of how they select a supplier or whatever. They do care. They just don't feel empowered to do so. Mm-hmm. And so it's whenever I'm having discussion with people and people are very open, which is amazing. Again, being an outsider, I have amazing discussions. People care. People want to do something, So it's just a matter of positioning, the decision making at the end of the day. And we're talking your question, about budget is happening at a higher level. So how, from, people, the staff, or, people on the floor caring, we can, make things happen at a higher level. And that's, one of the challenge. So part of my job, whenever, I enter, into the organization and start working with them, it's to identify, the champions, as you said, the ambassadors. There are many. We have many talents within an organization. We're just not using their talents.
Yeah.
I've worked more than 10 years in the corporate world. And I can share, my own experience. It was very frustrating for me to work and not seeing the impact of my work. To work and not feeling like I'm doing something, I'm we talk about this kind of bullshit job.
Yeah.
I know you heard this word. Very bad, but it's a reality. When you do things for the sake of doing things, you're not, you don't feel empowered, you don't feel, your matter. It's
not meaningful.
It's not meaningful.
Making any real impact. Yeah. And you can when you have the mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have like many people internally, who are ready to do more, ready to do the extra mile, ready to work more. If you give them a purpose, if you give them a clear mission.
But I had this question where we're seeing a recession hit most of the countries right now. My company is talking about a recession coming here as well. Do you think when things like this happen, is that going to halt the progress that we were seeing? Because what generally happens is companies go into survival mode.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, and they stop participating in all these initiatives. I mean, the only goal is to survive the next 6 months or something like that. Does that impact
the change?
Yeah,
it can impact the change. It depends how the company manage the risks. Again, it's a risk management approach.
Right.
Sustainability and all the topics around sustainability is a risk for an organization. So I think they need to have this risk mindset and start taking decisions instead of having very impulsive decision based on what's happening around them or based on just the revenues. It's thinking ahead, as I said, and having a vision, and perhaps, and the pandemic, was another one.
Exactly.
Another, very interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing is that with sustainability and the pandemic, we've seen, the
actually,
opposites.
It has actually empowered sustainability. Yes.
It's amazing how, the sustainability agenda was pushed forward, in organization. And we saw really things happening fast and all around the world. And
I think what happened is the shift happened because people came to a halt and they saw what they're doing to the environment. They saw what really matters are people and the planet. I think please go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no,
I get
you're
so
right.
excited about
You're
it.
Right.
Yes.
So I think it's exactly the same, the pandemic was one of the risks, an organization has to manage. So the recession is another one, sustainability is another one. So I think it's, again, it comes back to leadership.
Right.
If you have the right leadership in place, people having a vision, people, ready to make bold decisions.
Exactly.
Stick to the plan.
And the right
not be
decision.
Scared. Yeah, right decision. Managing very well the shareholders, because that's a lot of pressure. Managing, other stakeholders. It's really a question of leadership, and I think that's something we underestimate, when we talk about sustainability, because at the end of the day, it's people. If we don't make it happen, it's just because of us. We have the money, we have smart people. Just the question, it's up to us to make it happen. So I think the leadership is very, very, very important.
Yeah. At times like this, the kind of decisions companies make, that's what kind of shows, their integrity, how committed they are to their goals.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I think the biggest, the best thing about the Middle East, especially in the region we're living in, the country's leadership, the governance, they very much want to be a champion in sustainability.
Right.
Yeah. In past 5 years, they're really pushing innovation, pushing sustainability, pushing all agendas underneath, environmental sustainability, whatever touches. They are really putting in a lot of investment and voice and everything that they can, and that's a good place.
And it's also because of the country's landscape, the country's climate. They do need to, commit to it, because if they don't, things might be really bad in this part of the world. So yeah, it's kind of like you cannot ignore it anymore. But it's great to see them take initiatives to make that change happen.
Yeah, and empower people. That really empowers people like Nadine and people like
You,
me, people who are who has a voice and who is really working towards sustainability. It really helps them to push the agenda forward, because that's the right thing to do. And I believe everyone, if one lesson they need to learn from this whole pandemic is to do the right thing. I mean, and then money and everything else would follow.
Absolutely.
Because then innovations happen, then you change your mindset. You cannot follow money. Money is just happening as you do the right things. Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I think it's a question of ethics. I was in a conference one day, and one of the guys sum up the discussion by saying, what, sustainability is about ethics at the end of the day.
exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nadine, for taking time out.
Thank you.
Tell people, where can they reach you? How do you help for one last time? So I'm sure there's plenty of small, big, medium businesses who would want people like you. How they can reach you?
So on social medias. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Nadine Zidani, Instagram, Twitter. So as well my website, www.nadinezidani.com. You'll see all my services, what I do, blog posts, everything about sustainability.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nadine.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
was
It was
really
a pleasure.
amazing to have you here and have this conversation.
For all you people out there who would like to link to Nadine and would be interested in taking her services or know more about sustainability, please find all her information in our description. Thank you so much for listening in. Until the next episode, it's bye from Vibha, me and Nadine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.